Hey guys, welcome back to the Speaker's Edge podcast, the podcast designed specifically to help you develop your communication skills by learning from some of the world's very best speakers and communicators, people like John Maxwell, for example, so that you can learn to master your message and inspire your audience every single time you speak. I'm your host for this episode, Roddy Galbraith, and we have another great episode for you today, and I can say that because we have a very special guest, one of the world's very best speakers and communicators, Mr. John Maxwell himself. So you're going to love this interview, and we're splitting it over 2 episodes because there's too much in the interview really just to pack into one episode. So we're going to split it over part 1 today, and then in the next episode we'll do part 2. Now, before we get to that, if you haven't downloaded the companion resources for the show, then go to maxwellleadership.com/The Speaker's Edge. You can download the companion resources, and we would love it if you rate and review the show as well. All right, before we get to the interview with John, which I'm dying for you to get to, but before we get to that, let me just set it up quickly because there's some information at the beginning of this first part that's going to seem a little self-serving because John says some very nice things about me, and it's going to seem like we've left them in because, we want you to hear them. And that's not the case. We did talk about cutting it short and taking some of this early part out, but there's a lot of great stuff in there that I think is really helpful. It's subtler, and so that's why I wanted to point it out. But there's still a lot for us to learn from this first few minutes. So the first thing is I wanted you to see the origin of the Maxwell method of speaking. Because this particular interview was back in 2015, but we'd been working on the Maxwell method of speaking for a number of years at that point. And you can hear John talking about how that process started and how important it is to him to work on speaking for you and communication for you. So that's the first reason that we wanted to leave it in. The second is, John is a great example of transferring credibility to the person that he's working with, in this case, me. Because this was filmed in front of about 2,000 plus Maxwell Leadership Certified Team members, that those of you that followed the show, you've heard me talk about that before, and what it means to be a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team member. And John has, of course, enormous credibility with them, and so he's transferring some of that credibility to me in the interview. So it's a great principle to keep in mind. Who's the best person to give you credibility? Ideally, somebody that isn't you. You can do it yourself, but it's much more convincing if it comes from somebody other than you. So John does a great job of setting me up at the beginning of this. So that's a great principle to keep in mind. Another thing that I really wanted you to see as well, which we were going to cut out because it was part of this same section, is that what I call putting a crown on circumstance. Because something happens to John would be embarrassing for most of us, that most of us would try and hide, and John doesn't do that. And the audience ends up loving him even more despite this misfortune because of how he's able to deal with it. So putting a crown on circumstance is the next thing. Also, there's a great example of how John uses humor that you wouldn't have seen as well when he's talking about Ted Williams. So I'm not going to say too much about that, but look out for the use of humor as well. And then he talks about how anyone can develop their communication skills, but you have to have some talent to get really, really world class. Now, in another one of John's programs, he talks about how you find your purpose. And he talks about if you're interested in finding your purpose, which probably most of us want to be, although don't stress if you haven't found your purpose, and we'll come on to that in a later episode. But if you're interested in finding your purpose, maybe start with your interests, he says. What are you interested in? Because there's a good chance that your interests are going to lead you to your gifts and your talents, and your gifts and your talents are going to lead you to releasing enormous amounts of passion, and your passion then may lead you to your purpose. So anyone can develop their communication skills, but if you're gifted in this particular area, then you can really take that to an extraordinary level, to a world-class level. So what are you interested in? Where are your interests? Because that may lead you to your gifts and talents. And then the last thing that I want to draw your attention to in this first part is the importance of connecting. In fact, John covers so many things in the first 10 minutes of this clip that we cover in the first 10 episodes of the show. And so the importance of connecting, he really highlights here as well. That's it. I just wanted to set it up a little bit for you. Enjoy the interview with John. We'll talk quickly about it at the end, and then we'll see the rest of it, as I said, in part 2. Enjoy this episode with John. Everyone's here obviously working on developing their speaking, and as you're one of the very best speakers in the world without a shadow of a doubt, we thought it'd be nice to hear some pearls of wisdom from you.
I am delighted to join you, and before we do the Q&A, Roddy, I want you to know that I'm so proud of him. because communication is my life. And I've never had anybody, in all of my years of teaching, communicating, speaking, I've never had anybody break my work down, the way that I talk, the way that I communicate, analyze it, make it simple for people to understand, make it applicational. Really, Roddy, when you started showing me last year how you were taking what I shared and making it kind of teachable to others, I was blown away, and I became a Roddy fan. I mean, I really became, and I became a Roddy fan that day. And I'm telling you, I was so proud, because I'm proud of the faculty. But when I saw the work that he was doing, which I thought was way beyond anything that I would ever looked for or expected, and I remember, if you remember, Roddy, you showed me, you were breaking down my speeches, and I'm looking at you, and you're dissecting them for me and showing me, and I'm saying, oh, I do that? Oh, wow. Yeah, I like that, and it's kind of like, who's doing this? And you said, you're doing this. And I said, wonderful. So, but I'm telling you, I can say with integrity, I'm looking you right in the eye right now, I can tell you right now, we are giving you a phenomenal person that will teach you how to communicate and how to speak in Roddy. And so that's we're proud of him. I'm really proud of you, buddy. Really, and I love my mentoring time with him. Every other month I have mentoring time with each one of the faculty, one-on-one. And our time on mentoring, Roddy, has been off the charts. I've mentored for many, many years. I've mentored hundreds of people. I've never loved mentoring anybody more than I do. You're like a sponge, and you just pull it out of me. And when I'm done talking with you, sometimes I think, wow, I said things with him that I've never said before. And because you just bring it out. So anyway, good to be with you.
Oh, thank you.
This will be fun.
It's great to have you. Thank you. Okay, so let's dig into some of the speaking meat then. So people have been working on their 5-minute presentation, and when you start trying to say something worth saying in an interesting way in 5 minutes, people realize it's a little bit more difficult than you think, and then maybe they start thinking, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe, I don't have that sort of natural gift. I don't have the natural talent. How important has natural talent, do you think, been for you in your progression, your career as a great speaker?
Well, it's nice to have some. I wrote a book entitled "Talent Is Never Enough," and that was really, you know that book, and that really has done very well. And I think I'm going to write a sequel to it, saying, "But it would be nice to have some." Let me just say this: I've always said that it is impossible to have a high level of excellence without talent.
Right.
And so, if you would ask me, do I think everybody in this room is going to be an A+ speaker? My answer would be no, I do not think that. If you would ask me, do I think everybody in this room is going to become a much better speaker? I would say absolutely, 100%. And but I do think that there's some giftedness that goes with speaking, just like there's some giftedness that goes with dancing or with art. Or leadership or anything else. So I wouldn't be fair to you at all. It just wouldn't even be the right thing for me to say any person can just excel and be an A++ speaker. I don't think that's true, but I think every person can be a very good speaker. And I think for what we equip you to do in the John Maxwell team and credential you do, every one of you can be a qualified speaker.
Right.
And I think that's what counts. In other words, you can be qualified to make presentations, to go before organizations and companies and present your case and teach and train and do all those other things. And where I got greatly encouraged is when Roddy did show me how he began to break down how I teach. Because although there may be talent in how I do it, there is no secret about the fact that the way that I communicate, you can learn how to do that. It's teachable, It's transferable. And what I loved about what you did is you started saying, I'm going to take your stuff, John, and I'm going to make it transferable so people really understand. They understand the pauses, they understand the self-depreciation, all the stuff that I do when I communicate. And so what he's going to give you of mine is definitely transferable, and all of you can do it. And that makes me feel good. So you will be a very much better speaker because you're enrolled in the John Maxwell team, and you could not have a better teacher. I could not teach you how to speak as well as Roddy can. And the reason for that, is, and I say that truthfully, because the reason for that, Roddy, is if you are highly gifted, very seldom are you a great teacher. Because it's natural. It's just, if people, when you say to me, I got a 5-minute speech at a table, what should I do? I'd say, oh my God, get up and talk for 5 minutes. Do you have any other questions I can help you with? You know what I mean? And it's like the greatest baseball hitter maybe in the majors was Ted Williams. He was the last guy to hit 400. He did it back, I think, in the 1940s. Hit 400 as a batting average. And when he finished, of course, you know what they made him? They made him a batting instructor. Because they said, why wouldn't the greatest batter, the greatest hitter, be a batting instructor, and he'll help all of our baseball players hit the ball better. And he was a terrible batting instructor. He only lasted 3 years, and they fired him. You know what his problem was? Because these guys are these guys are getting ready, and they're trying to hit the ball, and he's trying to help them, and they're missing it. And Ted Williams looked at him and he said, keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye, and these guys are, And Ted just said, if you just keep your eye on the ball. See Ted Williams, when the ball left the pitcher's hand, in a split second, he could see the rotation of the ball and know whether it's a sinker, a curve, a fastball, or a knuckleball. I mean, he literally, 80 feet away, he could figure out what was coming toward him. And his whole solution is keep your eye on the ball. These guys' eyes are bugging out. Now, what was the challenge? The challenge was he was a natural hitter. And it was just, if you would just keep your eye on the ball. Well, that's all he did. And so I think that, I'm going to get back to you, to let you get to the next question, but I just think, Roddy, so what pleases me is that, when I followed great communicators and learned how to communicate, I not only listened to what they were speaking on, but the bigger question for me is, what makes them such an effective communicator? And what I found and what I determined, I did this for 12, 15 years. If I was in an audience and there was somebody who could communicate, I'm listening to their subject, and I'm taking notes, but I'm watching them, and I say, okay, why are they so good? Why are they so good? Why are they? And I came to the conclusion that all great communicators, they're different in personalities and styles and stuff, but all great communicators have the ability to almost instantly connect with the people they talk to. And so then I started asking myself, okay, what makes a person connect with people? And that was a whole different question, and that got me to a whole different level as far as communication is concerned. But anyway, I'm just really glad that you have Roddy, because I know what he'll do for you. And he's teaching me, literally, he's teaching me how I communicate. And it's kind of an interesting exercise. It's kind of like, well, I've never seen myself undressed before. You know what I'm saying? And there it is. It's right before me. So anyway, good. All right. So let's go on.
Okay. Question 2.
You have no idea how to go on the next question after that, do you?
So, well, you obviously got natural talent, but you've worked hard as well.
Look at me. I just spilled milk or water all over me. Look at this. I'm just so sorry. I'm just clumsy. Margaret, my wife, says that I'm the only person who can walk across the living room, carry a coffee table with me, and not even know it. I'm sorry, Roddy. I'm ready. Until I spill something else.
So one of the things I've heard you say is you don't take shortcuts in your strength zone. So even though you've got some natural talent, you still work hard.
Very.
And some people who, I think you said that everyone can move forward, wherever you're starting with natural talent, you can move forward from where you are with some effort and with hard work. And some people think, yeah, well, if I put in a lot of effort, I'm sure I could develop, but is it really worth it? You've obviously achieved a great deal, very successful. Inc. magazine has named you as world #1 leadership expert, over 70 books. World-renowned leadership expert. You've been very successful. How important has speaking been in your success, would you say?
If a person came to me and said, teach me one thing that will help me to be successful, I would teach him how to communicate effectively. I truly believe, Roddy, that a person that can get their ideas across to others through communication is going to have the key to success. I mean, because what do? We cast vision. I mean, almost everything we do every day in life, we're trying to convince somebody, we're trying to influence somebody, we're trying to get a point across. So to me, if somebody just said, if you could give me one gift that would allow me to be successful in life, what gift would you give me? I would give them the gift of communication, effectively communicating, because then you sell your ideas, you sell your influence. Life becomes good when you can hold court, hold a room by the words that you say or by the actions that you convey to them. So I would consider it essential. And I would also say, Roddy, because you mentioned in the beginning the preparation side, when I was, as you know, for 25 years I was a pastor, so I mean, communication was something I did a lot. And probably within the first 6 months of my first little church in southern Indiana, I realized, and that's how many people that's the population of the area that I pastored, right there. And I realized that I was just going to be, I realized I was going to be an effective communicator. I realized I was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. And I can remember, Roddy, I came to this because, you know, you have to prepare. And back then I had to prepare 2 lessons a week because we did Sunday morning, Sunday night, and sometimes even 3 because we do a Wednesday night. And so I got to this crossroads where I said, you know what? I'm pretty good, and I think I can wing it. And I mean, I probably had a few months of just kind of battling. Should I just kind of let personality and all this stuff kind of help mix with words? And here's what I knew. And this is, okay, I say this in context, so take it in context. I was in southern Indiana in the poorest county in the state with farmers. And I knew with farmers I could wing it. And they would think I was really good. And so I thought, wow, I really probably could put 15, 20 minutes into a lesson and get up and they would think it was good. And Roddy, I wrestled with that for a few months. And I came to a conclusion, and again, I'm a person of faith, so I'm not trying to put this on you. I just have to talk to you out of my life. And if it's out of my life, it has to be partial faith because that's who I am. And I came to the conclusion that I wasn't speaking for farmers, I was speaking for God.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden, again, because I'm a person of faith, there's a day I'm going to give an account to God for my gifts and what I did with them, not to farmers. And all of a sudden, I changed my audience. And that changed all of my communication, and that made me prepare. And up to this day, when I speak today, when I teach you today, I am teaching you because you deserve the best. You paid good money to be here, and you've spent your time, and I value you, and I honor you for all that. But what I'm telling you right now, when I speak today to you, I am speaking to you, and I will connect with you, but I'm speaking with an audience of God. And I never forget that. And so I'm not about to shortchange something that I want to present to Him to honor Him. And so therefore, that definitely settled the don't take shortcuts, don't wing it, you know what I mean? You don't want to be known as the person who wings it for God, you know what I mean? They're just I don't want to stand before Him and say, well done, thou good and faithful winger. You know what I mean? So anyway, there we go. Okay.
Okay. So you've written all these books that have been very successful, continue to be very successful. It seems to me that one of the reasons that you've probably sold so many books is because there's such wide appeal. The information is applicable to lots of different people. It's not just Fortune 500 companies or
Sure.
not just pastors or. It is applicable to everyone. Was that something that was conscious, presumably? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was very conscious. you have to understand that I'm theologically trained, and so I had hermeneutics, homiletics, hermeneutics, speech, and Greek as far as classes I took that would prepare me to teach from the Bible. And so in college, as it is, they take great pride in knowledge and depth. And so I can still remember the message I preached for my senior year. All seniors had to preach a message to the chapel of which you were being graded on. So, all these hundreds of kids out there and these professors, and they're grading your message. And so it was, if somebody said, John, do you want to go speak today or do you want to go to hell? I would have chosen hell. Because and they're there. And I can still remember the title of my lesson. The title of my lesson was taken out of 1 John, The Incompatibility of Sin and Sonship. I got the highest rating that year of any message that was given. And not one of us in this room knows exactly what I just said. Because they wanted me to, they loved that incompatibility of sin and sonship. They liked high phrases and kind of important sounding words. And I can still remember as I was communicating that day, I was saying to myself, I'm doing this to make professors happy, but this won't work for farmers. And I said to myself that day, as soon as I get my A here, I'll get to reality. And reality is that you can't speak above people, or you can't make yourself feel more important than people. You have to, and so that's where I got the phrase, people hear me say it all the time, I put the cookies on the lower shelf. I put the cookies on the lower shelf so everybody can have some. It's obvious I've had some, okay? You can have some too. And what I mean by that, the highest compliment, and throughout my pastoral career, I would have new people, because all we had was new people, because basically the old people, I got rid of them so we could get some new people. I mean, they're all ready for heaven. What do I want them around for? You know what I'm saying? Who wants to preach to the choir all their life? I mean, it's the same old song. It's kind of boring, to be honest with you. Okay, so I would have people come to my congregation, totally unchurched, totally, and they would come up to me and they would say this every time. They'd say, I understood everything you said. Or they'd say, what you said was so simple. And I took it as a great honor, a great compliment when people said what I said was simple. Because all you've got to do is read the Gospels and listen to the words of Jesus. They were really simple. And so I think that, an educator takes something simple and makes it complicated. That's who they are. If you're not confused, they're not happy. And a communicator takes something complicated and makes it simple. And all my life, I've just said, when I'm finished, there's only two questions I ask when I teach you: what I want you to know and what I want you to do. That's it. What I want you to know, what I want you to do. And can I tell you something? If you can't understand it, you can't know it. And if you can't know it, you can't do it. So yes, I think there's a great art, and I think there's a great effort in making things simple.
Right.
I mean, simple isn't simple. You got to work really hard to break it down and say, is what I'm saying really going to be something that when I say it, the people are going to be able to grasp it and do something with it.
Okay, so once you've got that message, how important is the style of delivery? Because you have this, very sort of conversational style, very friendly. Everyone feels like they know you when they see you speak.
Well, yeah, I think style is very important. But Roddy, I didn't start off conversational.
Okay, how did you start out?
I started off preachy. And so I got a pulpit, and and I got behind the desk, and I'm this, and I had a big one because it was the size of your pulpit kind of determined like your reputation. And so I literally by the time I was 28, I had the 10th largest church in America. And so when I went to my new church, they had they had a gigantic pulpit for me. I mean, and they were and it was one you kind of stepped in. It was almost like a dressing room. and it was kind of like, the people could see from my neck up, and of course to me, I've got a sense, everything's funny to me. I mean, I just have a sense of humor. I'm just sorry, but I think everything's funny, and I think if you don't think you're funny, that even makes you funnier. And so I tell people all the time, I said, laugh at yourself, everyone else is, you know what I'm saying? So get real. And so, but it just struck me because I'm behind this. First off, in California, it's my first time living out west. And I thought, they didn't give me a pulpit, they gave me a fort. And if the Indians ever come, I'm safe, you know what I mean? I can hide behind here for days. And then I got laughing, and one day in their service, I said, all you can see is my neck up. I said, you don't even know if I'm naked or not. And they just started howling, because I did that in church, and it did. And I said, I just thought, I'm going to wear a tie and nothing else, you know what I'm saying? and of course then, Roddy, I immediately realized you can't communicate behind a fort. And so I started walking, and I began to walk while I would teach. And pretty soon I got rid of the fort. I said, I don't even need any podium or anything. And so that people could see me, so that I could be out in front of people. And then the strangest thing, because it wasn't anything that I wasn't smart enough to do this, I literally was in a racquetball tournament, and I really hurt my back. I mean, really pulled my back very bad. And I was in bed for literally 2.5 days. I mean, I just couldn't move. And then I had to go to Allentown, Pennsylvania for a conference, 2-day conference, leadership conference, of which I knew I couldn't stand. And so I said, I'll come. My wife, Margaret, had to go with me because, I couldn't even get out of bed. I'm in bad shape. My back is pretty well out. And so I said, you're going to have a bar stool with me with a back and some arms so I can sit in, so I can lecture. I went to Allentown, Pennsylvania, Roddy, and I sat like this, and I taught for 2 days. And we're going back to the airport, and I looked at Margaret, and I said, Margaret, I've got a lot of strength in my body. I don't feel like I've talked for 2 days or worked for 2 days. And it hit me that I sat the whole time. And I said to myself, I'm going to start sitting when I speak, because I was kind of a strong communicator, highly confident, knew where I was going, and I was probably, in the earlier days, very strong and intimidating. And I said, I need to back off when I teach. And I realized that when I would sit, that it would allow me to be more conversational. And that was back in 1987.
Wow.
No, I'd been back in 1992, sorry. So 92, for 20 some years now, 23 years.
Been using the bus.
I've been sitting in it, and it just makes me a better communicator, it makes me more conversational, it makes you it's like we're talking with each other. You know what I'm saying? And it's now I don't think that you should sit. I don't think that's for everyone. But I literally found it out with the bad back. But I was going to the stool. I just didn't know it, because when I wanted to get rid of things that I wanted to be out of. And so now to this day, I don't like to see anything between myself and communicate. There's something very open and vulnerable about a person who doesn't have things between him. And even when I was doing counseling or anything like that, I would never go behind a desk. I would always come out and sit beside the person or sit across from the person, so that we could really have good conversation without all these barriers.
Great.
Okay, we'll leave it there in the interest of time. As I said, we'll cover the rest of it in part 2. For those of you that might be interested in finding out about what it means to be a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team member, as I said, the Maxwell method of speaking, I think, is the best system of speaking in the world. You can learn that as a Maxwell Leadership Certified Team member. There's nearly 60,000 Maxwell Leadership Certified Team members around the world in 169 plus countries. So you won't be the first through the program. If you're interested in finding out, simply go to maxwellleadership.com/speak. Jump on a call with a program advisor and find out whether or not it's a fit for you. It's no obligation, so it really is a no-brainer. Okay, that's it for this week. As I said, we'll see you in the next episode for the second part of this interview with John. Thanks, guys. Lots of love. Take care. Bye-bye. God bless.